I've been secretly married to my wife, Anna, for 7 years. The fact that her husband worked in entertainment was something she never wanted to disclose to the public. Then, Anna abruptly stated one day that she wanted to bring our child to my show. I was excited. However, she became the special guest of a well-known young actor, and I watched helplessly as she held our daughter's hand. The entire internet was anticipating my demise. "Where are your wife and child?" the host asked. "My wife just passed away," I said, grinning resignedly into Anna's eyes, "and I don't want the child." Chapter 1. Is business mogul Ana Lin really on a variety show? I heard it's for someone important. It must be for her rumored, mysterious husband. The live broadcast's viewership exploded when Anna appeared on the show holding Lucy's hand. The screen even features the young princess of the Lin family. A small sigh of relief left my throat. I believed that she had finally changed her mind and was prepared to help me with my work. Before I left for work that morning, she casually stated while putting on her lipstick, "Cameron, I'll be on your show tonight." I thought she was coming for me, especially since she was bringing our daughter. Therefore, I extended my hand to welcome Lucy, the child I deeply cherished. However, in the next moment, it felt as if someone had struck me in the face. I watched as mother and daughter walked past me without even glancing in my direction, and took their seats as the special guests of the popular actor Jake. My hand stopped in midair. In disbelief, I softly called out, "Lucy." Lucy merely looked at me for a moment before returning her attention to her mother. I noticed a coldness in her eyes at that precise moment that seemed older than she was, the same coldness as her mother. Suddenly, a barrage of hurtful remarks swept across the screen. Cameron, the eternal third male lead, just shamelessly hinted that he's the husband of Chairman Lin. I think Cameron is desperate for fame. Satisfying. Seeing Cameron Shu finally face the consequences was satisfying. What is Cameron Shu's identity? I frowned and looked at Anna. Did she even realize that tonight her actions would turn me into a joke across the entire internet? As a businesswoman, profit is my top priority, as you are aware. I asked her quietly, "Did you not consider how it would look for my wife and child to be someone else's guests?" So, how was I supposed to handle that? "Cameron, you misunderstood." She explained everything so casually as if I were the one making a fuss. "Didn't you see the insults from those online trolls?" Anna's expression remained as calm as ever, as if she truly couldn't understand my confusion. "Cameron, if you insist on being in the entertainment industry, you should have a stronger mindset. Why do you care so much about what others say?" A deep sense of helplessness suddenly welled up inside me. In our 7 years of marriage, there had always been an impenetrable barrier to our understanding of each other. I turned to leave, but Anna grabbed my sleeve. "Ron, let's go home together after this." As her greatest compromise, she only referred to me as Cameron during arguments. However, I no longer required it. I walked straight back to the live broadcast after shaking off her hand. "Cameron, where are your wife and child?" the host asked with a hint of curiosity when the broadcast resumed. "Did they come?" Anna looked up and watched me quietly. I grinned resignedly beneath her gaze. "I don't want the child, and I'm sorry they couldn't make it. My wife just died." Chapter 3. Anna's eyes were deep and unreadable as she pressed her lips together. The live stream's comments kept scrolling quickly. I didn't feel like indulging these netizens today, which is hilarious. Has Cameron gone crazy? He couldn't lie his way out, so he's flipping the table. I had previously asked the reliable housekeeper to snap a photo of my room. The image was now projected onto the large screen. After a brief pause, the comments burst into flames. Am I correct in assuming that's the marriage certificate between Cameron and Chairman Lin? Is Chairman Lin okay sitting in someone else's guest seat instead of her own husband's? What's wrong with Jake inviting someone else's wife and child as his guests? Cameron, bro, I was too loud earlier. I'm on my knees as I confess my error. I was the only person at the scene with a gloomy expression. I felt much more comfortable and went on to say, I'm not going to fight for custody of the child because I'm planning to get a divorce, so in my mind my wife is dead. I'm going to pretend I don't have a child because I wouldn't win anyhow. I had no intention of continuing to record this show. I would still receive a portion of the money because I was divorcing, which would be sufficient to pay the fine for breaking the show's contract. I just wanted to follow my heart and be reckless for once after leading a life of self-control for more than 20 years. Chapter 4. My mother called as soon as I pulled into the parking lot. Before I could say anything, she began to yell at me. I interrupted her, saying, "But today, Ana was the one who embarrassed me. Why do you care who she supports or which young star she promotes? As long as you're Anna's husband, that's all that matters. Have you gone insane announcing on a live broadcast that you want a divorce? If you get divorced, what happens to your father's business? Our family has relied on the Lin family's support for years. Don't you understand that? Your brother's esports company just started up, and your father's shopping mall project has a funding gap. They both need Anna's backing." I couldn't stand it any longer and hung up before shutting off my phone. I felt a profound fatigue. They saw my marriage as nothing more than a negotiating chip. I turned to see Anna's small frame leaning against my car, her posture elegant. "Where's Lucy?" "I sent her and the driver home together. I've canceled the performance. There won't be any trending topics tomorrow either. Calling off the show and removing trending topics, none of that was surprising. As the Lin family's heiress, she had the money and power to make all of that happen. Ana always handled things decisively with an innate confidence. She even believed that divorce was just something I was saying out of frustration, and that as long as she said a few soft words, I would relent. She lowered her voice in self-mockery. "You've made such a scene today. The whole internet is going to laugh at me." I chuckled and threw her own words back at her. "Chairman Lin, you should have a strong heart." Ana briefly froze before putting her hand on the car door I was going to open, but she didn't care what other people thought. The picture is in the secret compartment of the second cabinet in your study. "Are you upset because of Jake?" "I only did it for that piece of land." I laughed. "Ana, do you believe that yourself? When have you ever been short of a piece of land?" "It's because Jake looks like him, doesn't he?" "Not just Jake. Even I look like him. Isn't that why you married me?" Ana abruptly released my hand, her face freezing. "Don't touch my bookcase ever again." The burst of the lovely fake bubble brought everything into stark clarity. I articulated to her, verbatim, that, "Ana, there won't be a from now on. I intend to file for divorce." Chapter 5. My family's business began to deteriorate after I was born, and I ended up being the family's least favorite child. They expected me to marry a rich heiress and spare the family from hardship for 10 years. Being a proactive woman, my mother began setting up blind dates for me as early as my sophomore year of college. I consented to everything in exchange for the opportunity to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. My sole obsession was to become a movie star and actor. It started out as my best friend Martin's dream. It became my dream after he left. Prior to Anna's appearance, I believed I would have to wed that affluent, older Hong Kong woman who was twice my size and 20 years older. Everyone in the family except me liked the match, and she was elderly but wealthy. Then everything changed on a blind date. My dad was skeptical, but my mom was ecstatic and interrupted. "Who cares? The important thing is to catch this big fish." A family like the Lin family. How could they be arranging a marriage with a small, insignificant family like ours? I sat like a puppet in front of Anna on the day of the blind date. I'll admit that at first glance, her beauty and elegance enthralled me. Hot coffee splashed on the back of my hand as I continued to wonder why someone so beautiful would have to go on a blind date. The new waiter was frantically apologizing. However, Anna had already dragged me to the sink and was holding my hand under cold water with care. This will make the pain go away quickly. Maybe it was this moment of gentleness that made me feel that marrying her wouldn't be so bad. Later, or when the Lin family came to discuss the marriage, my mother was as excited as if she had won the lottery, and I had no objections either. After all, Anna was 100 times better looking than that wealthy woman, and wasn't she? After we got married, Deanna treated me fairly well. Aside from not supporting my acting career, she was almost flawless in her role as a wife. In our free time, she would accompany me to the highest mountain in Hong Kong to watch the sunrise. She would go with me to drink the best, most authentic Hong Kong tea. We would walk hand in hand through every street and alley of Hong Kong like an ordinary young couple. She told me that she had attended university in Hong Kong, so she had a special attachment to the place. It wasn't until the 7th year of our marriage that I discovered the real reason. She liked Hong Kong because there had once been a him there. Like all the cliched love stories among the wealthy, Anna had a first love who was torn away by her family, and he was dead. That blind date was nothing more than a choice Anna made after taking over the family business and spreading her wings. When I accidentally found that old photograph in her bookcase, everything became clear. On the back were the words, "My dearest Paul," and on the front was a man who looked 70% like me. In that moment I realized I was nothing but a stand-in. Every sunrise we watched together, every cup of Hong Kong tea we drank, and every street we walked through, they were all memories of her and him. This was not the love I had once believed in. Chapter 6. The underground parking lot was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. With a soft click, Anna lit a slim cigarette. "Divorce? Aren't you considering Lucy?" I let out a small laugh. Over the years, Anna's mother had taken full control of Lucy's upbringing, molding her in the same way that she had shaped Anna. "Have you forgotten? Your mother said I wasn't fit to raise a child, and she shouldn't take my last name. She's 6 years old now, but I've spent less than 6 months with her." Anna gave me a superior look and said, "Wasn't it you who didn't want her in the first place?" Even though it was such a simple sentence, it had a sharp emotional impact on me. I had repeatedly stated that I had never turned Lucy away. I was still dealing with depression at the time, and I was afraid I might hurt her, so I couldn't be around her. However, Anna consistently disregarded my justification. I once believed that she was naturally cold. It made sense that a woman who was preoccupied with a huge business empire would miss the little things in life. Later on, though, I understood that it was because she didn't love me. Nothing truly mattered to her in the absence of love. I was able to recall each of their birthdays over the years. However, nobody ever recalled mine. This excludes Martin from the list. Unfortunately, though, Martin is no longer with us. Anna let out a small sigh. "Why don't you cool off for a month? After that, when your anger has subsided," I replied, "there's no need. I've thought this through." Even now she believed I was just acting out of emotion. Chapter 7. The day I packed up and left the Lin family's home, I went to pick up Lucy from school. Even though she saw me, she hesitated for a long time before finally getting into the car. Once inside, she frowned slightly. "Dad, don't pick me up from school again. It reflects poorly on me in front of my peers. Why? I am unable to show them that you are a minor actor. My hands automatically gripped the steering wheel more tightly. She looked down at the rearview mirror and said, "Who said your dad is an unimportant actor? Mom doesn't like your job either." Grandma and Nana both said it. The remainder of the drive was spent in silence. Lucy's response was mature, almost adult-like, and very cold. "Dad, you should change jobs," I said, turning to her as we reached the garage at home. "You're self-centered because you never consider our feelings." For a moment, I closed my eyes. "You won't be embarrassed in the future because I won't be picking you up from school again, Lucy. Have any of you ever considered how I feel?" I used such a chilly tone when I spoke to her for the first time. Lucy got out of the car and froze, looking at me bewildered. I drove away from the Lin house at full speed without acknowledging her. Anna's silhouette on the second-floor balcony and Lucy's tiny figure in the rearview mirror gradually shrank until they vanished. I let out a long sigh as I looked at the divorce decree resting on the passenger seat. My world had limitless possibilities from this point on. Chapter 8. Anna never thought Cameron would start the divorce process, and to do it so dramatically during a live broadcast saying, "My wife is dead," it almost made her laugh in anger. In her mind, Cameron had always been mild-mannered and lacked a strong will. Despite his obstinate aspiration to become an actor, which she found objectionable, he embodied the qualities of an ideal husband. The main reason she agreed to marry him, aside from his vaguely familiar face, was because he seemed mild-tempered and unlikely to cause trouble. She knew very well that her mother was a dominant figure at home. She didn't want trivial family conflicts to get in the way of expanding her business empire. After they got married, she realized her choice had been correct. Cameron was incredibly patient and never argued with her mother. He only took on projects that were filmed locally. No matter how late the filming went, he would always return to the Lin family home. Every morning when she woke up, there was always a faint scent of citrus lingering in the air. It was the scent of his usual body wash. She would turn over, bury her face in his neck and ask, "Do you really like oranges that much?" He would nod and smile. "Yes, I do. Martin loved them too." She didn't know who Martin was, but he mentioned the name often. She didn't really pay attention each time. Perhaps she was thinking about the group's new strategy, profit margins, and other work-related issues, or perhaps she was just daydreaming. She didn't know when it began, but he started talking less and less about it until he stopped talking about it altogether. In any case, what he was saying wasn't important, right? Slowly, their conversations dwindled. The bottle of citrus-scented body wash in the bathroom caused Anna, who had always been calm, to become irritated for no apparent reason 3 days after the divorce. Why are his things still here? The servant, bowing her head in apology, quickly gathered all traces of Cameron. The citrus body wash, the lavender bed sheets, and the trinkets on the table. But that night, Anna, who usually had no trouble sleeping, found herself unable to sleep under the newly changed blue sheets. The unfamiliar scent in the air made her uncomfortable. The next morning, dark circles were visible under her eyes. She thought for a moment, and then called for the servant. "Bring back Mr. Shu's things." The servant was taken aback. "Chairman Lin, everything has already been thrown out. We can't get them by—" Anna felt as though she had swallowed a bitter pill, rendering her speechless. Chapter 9. Maybe it's true that positive events give people a special boost. A well-produced drama series invited me to try out, highlighting the positive aspects of divorce. I was given a thorough explanation by the assistant director that, should I be cast, the filming would be done in 3 different locations, some of which were in isolated mountainous regions with challenging weather. But if it's done well, there's a good chance of winning awards. The moment I heard about the possibility of winning an award, I didn't care about anything else. No problem, I'm in. Now, nothing could stop me from pursuing my dreams. For more than 20 years, I had been the obedient son of the Zhu family. I used my marriage to secure business deals and wealth for the entire family. I owed them nothing. For 7 years, I had been Anna's husband. I played my role diligently with sincere emotions only to find out I was just a substitute. An unequal marriage only turns into a shackle. Luckily, I was already free. The role required 4 months of intensive, closed-door training and auditions. Along with me, there were 107 other competitors, all entering the training camp together. It was both an opportunity and a challenge. Before dawn, I would wake up and start my morning exercises. Then came relentless horseback riding training, kung fu practice, etiquette lessons, and horseback riding in particular, which was our main focus. I went from being afraid to mount a horse to galloping with one hand while drawing a bow and shooting arrows. I fractured countless bones during that time. Some people unaware of my situation would joke with me. I heard you're Anna's husband. I didn't hesitate to ask why a wealthy woman's husband must put in so much work. Others would sneer behind my back, whispering, "This pampered playboy living off a wealthy family, I bet he won't even make it past the first round of selection." I'm divorced, I'm no one's husband, my name is Cameron. I could have ignored it and put up with it in the past. However, that is no longer the case. I now take care of things right away if they annoy me. Individual honor can wait. I approached them and asked, "What are you betting on your leaky mouth?" Before they could respond, I had already turned around, mounted my horse, and rode off at full speed. At that moment, it felt as if I had trampled all the doubts beneath my feet. There wasn't much time left before the final round of testing. I treated each day as if it had 48 hours. Doing what I love every second was exhausting but fulfilling. On the day of the test, the sun was shining brightly. I galloped forward, my eyes fixed on the target, and shot an arrow straight into the bullseye. Once could be a coincidence, but when I hit the bullseye 3 times in a row, I knew my hard work had paid off. My overall score was the highest. The bloody marks on my palms were a testament to my success. Is that Cameron? Wow, he's amazing. He completely matches the general's appearance in the script. You got it exactly right, Cameron. You gave a great performance. I experienced a rush of pride at being called by my own name at that precise moment. However, I noticed 2 people I knew standing outside the training grounds when I turned around. I hadn't seen Anna and Lucy, the mother and daughter, in 4 months. Chapter 10. Lucy's eyes gleamed in the blazing sun. "You looked pretty awesome just now, Dad, shooting arrows and riding the horse." She had never given me a compliment before in all these years. Despite my best efforts, I was never able to fully integrate into her life. I recall a time when she was given a wood carving project in kindergarten. Even though I'm not very good at crafts, I spent the entire night creating a wooden tiger sculpture for her. "It's not as good as the one Grandma's craft teacher made for me," she pouted after taking one look at it when she was 4 years old. "Dad, it seems like you can't do anything right." Unfortunately, that tiger sculpture ended up in the trash. With an aloof smile, Anna's mother stood on the stairway, refusing to stop her. "Don't hold Lucy responsible. How could something a father made with love for his child be ridiculed? Even if it wasn't flawless, it was made with love. If she brought what you made to school, she would be made fun of. However, it's possible that the Lin family doesn't understand love. Anna's mother probably wouldn't have approved of her marrying someone like me if she hadn't been afraid that Anna might be alone for the rest of her life after Paul's passing. Even Anna's beloved Paul couldn't win over the Lin family, could he? My mind came back to the here and now, and I smiled slightly at Lucy. I'm cool, I know that. So what? Lucy was only 6 years old and couldn't conceal her emotions, even though she inherited the Lin family's entire level of indifference. Grandma was mistaken. It turns out that being attractive and striking a flirtatious pose aren't the only aspects of your job. Anna's eyes grew gloomy. Lucy, I chuckled. Your grandmother's either cruel or simply elderly if she says things like that. After a brief pause, Lucy muttered, Dad, my birthday is next month. Will you return home? No, I won't, sweetheart. Actors like me have no right to be at your birthday celebration. Lucy was about to say something when her eyes turned red in an instant. Anna interrupted her, though. Get into the car and wait. I must speak with your dad. Lucy never dared to disobey Anna because she respected her so much. Reluctantly, she approached the car while constantly turning to face me. When I looked up, Anna's intense eyes were fixed on me. Her lips formed a faint smile. Why do you seem like a different person now that you're divorced, Cameron? You're happier and more articulate than you were before. I arched a little eyebrow. Do you think I'm interested in what you think? If so, please be brief. I don't have time to listen to you ramble on because I'm busy. She had said those same words to me before. I turned to leave without saying anything. However, she firmly grasped my arm. Happy birthday, Cameron. I pried her fingers off my arm one by one after we got divorced, and she now remembers my birthday. A belated birthday greeting 7 years later. Who would be pleased that I didn't wait for her to reply and returned immediately to the training area. Anna stood there, alone and uncharacteristically desolate. Chapter 11. Before long, I was completely engrossed in the crew's rigorous filming schedule. Sometimes dozens of takes are needed for a single scene because of things like the lines or the other actors. However, seeing Anna all the time was more exhausting than the work, no matter how demanding it was. Each time I drove back to my dorm, her car would be discreetly parked a short distance away. She never had empty hands. She occasionally brought a box of pastries from a Michelin-starred chef, and other times she brought soup that she had prepared herself. She had never done these things before, and I never imagined that she would. She had never dared to show off our relationship in public and had always been proudly distant. However, it now appeared that she had no interest in concealing our relationship. The other actors on the crew initially gave me jealous looks. Chairman Lin, Cameron is actually your ex-wife. She looks even more stunning up close. Is she here to reunite with you? Will you two make up? She's incredible. She has a deceased lover in her heart, I told them calmly. For 7 years, I served as a stand-in. She never fell in love with me during our 7 years of marriage. Do you think I should fall back into that trap of becoming a kept man of the Lin family, with no freedom and no emotional support, only acting as a financial lifeline for my parents' business? There's no reason why she would suddenly like me after the divorce, right? No way, they all shook their heads. They stopped observing Anna with admiration after that. They occasionally whispered to me, "Hey, that woman is back." Anna would exit her car wearing high heels, appearing worn out. This international business trip has made it difficult for me to sleep. Where did you get the body wash you used to use, Cameron? The orange scent seems like it might help me fall asleep. I grinned a little. You can't buy it anywhere. I made it myself. She paused for a second. Then could you? No. I wouldn't, and I no longer wanted to help her in any way. Instead of becoming angry, she took a ring out of her pocket and gave it to me. You once expressed your desire for us to share wedding rings. The ring fell out of our fingers as she spoke, collecting dust on the floor. I hadn't even attempted to catch it. In bewilderment in her eyes, she scowled at me and said, "You don't like it. I like it, but not when it's from you." Word for word, I was clear. A good ex-partner should act as if they've moved on. She had said something to me once, and I recalled it. "It bothers me, Cameron, when people call my husband a mediocre actor. Do you get it? So, for 7 years, we didn't disclose our marriage. While history doesn't repeat itself, it does rhyme frequently. The constant mention of my ex-wife Ana bothers me a great deal. Never return." Chapter 12. Do you understand? Cameron once again ignored Ana and left. Ana felt a tiny sting close to her heart for the first time. This sensation was especially intense when the ring hit the floor. She picked it up, gave it a quick look, and then tossed it into the artificial lake nearby with a flick of her wrist. Before the water calmed down again, a few ripples appeared. Cameron would never be aware that she had contributed to the design of these rings. The initial letters of each of their names, C and A, were engraved inside the ring. All she wanted was to atone for her past regrets. She thought she was going crazy. It seemed as though something in her blood had woken up ever since the divorce, when her insomnia became incurable. It was as if it were screaming for her to reconsider her relationship with Cameron. Unable to sleep that night, she called an old friend to join her after drinking until she was inebriated. Her friend gave her a perplexed look while swirling a glass of red wine. Ana paused for a second before laughing bitterly. "Are you telling me that only after the divorce did you realize you loved your husband?" Her friend laughed. "And compared to the one from before, who are you more used to?" She knew her friend was referring to Paul, the younger student she had dated in college. The handsome and bold Paul was the university's heartthrob, and he pursued people with passion when he liked them. The entire campus soon learned about them after he courted Ana with every romantic gesture imaginable. Young and impressionable at the time, Ana found herself drawn to such a boy. Paul gave her a picture and playfully made her write, "My dearest Paul," on it on the day they officially became lovers. That day, she broke up with Paul in her sports car, and Paul's eyes were red with rage. "I didn't. I was tricked by the event organizers. Nothing happened. I ran away. I kept that photo all these years almost without thinking about it." Later, Ana's father forced them to part ways, upholding their family's belief that it's fine to have fun, but marriage is serious. Her father's strategy was psychological warfare, using the coldest words to break down her defenses. Ana sneered, "You have to believe me." "Do you think my father would lie to me?" Paul attempted to jump out of the car in a fit of rage. A truck sped toward them during the altercation. Everything went dark and tragically ended. It was true that Ana's father had lied. It was all because Paul, an orphan, was unworthy, and their family needed to marry into a more prestigious one. After that, Ana skipped her father's funeral. She still harbored a deep-seated guilt about Paul that had nothing to do with love. He might not have died if she had believed him if she hadn't fainted that day, and if she had been able to get him out of the car in time. After a few glasses of wine, they concluded the story. Ana received a shoulder pat from her friend. Think about it. What you're feeling is just guilt. Guilt is not love. What would you have done if Cameron had been in the car that day? Ana remained silent for a while. Chapter 13. The crew hardly had a day off, and she took a big gulp of wine, bit her lip, and finally said, with a hint of drunken self-mockery, "Then I guess I would have died with him." I was timidly invited to a movie by the third female lead in the group. She smiled and gave me the movie ticket, but I politely declined, saying, "I'm just focused on my career right now. I have no plans for a relationship. You can watch it or not. However, please put me in line if you ever decide to start dating." Her honesty and innocence made me laugh. I looked up and saw Ana's icy stare staring back at me. Lucy stood next to her. Lucy clenched her little fists and said, "Dad, you've changed." I sighed. Why is this happening again? Half an hour later, we were sitting in a cafe when Lucy raised her little chin arrogantly and said, "Dad, I don't like you being involved with that woman we just saw." I laughed. "Sketsk, you're still so young, but your heart is already as big as a boss lady's." Ana scowled a little and said, "Go take care of it in the restroom." I took a sip of coffee and said, "Am I? But I quite like the way I am now." She was so angry that she knocked over the juice, spilling it onto her white dress. I lowered my flimsy pretense and scowled at Ana after Lucy left. "Is that person pursuing you?" I asked, but she ignored me. "Did I not tell you not to come looking for me?" "Ana, we're already divorced. Who I'm with and what I do is my business." "Can we go back to the way things were, Cameron? Lucy wants you to come home. She's only 7 years old, so she can't be without her father. Your heart should soften for her sake. I can change the things you didn't like about me before." For someone like Ana, who has been a goddess her entire life, she has probably never begged anyone before, so I could tell that this was her most earnest attempt to win me back. "Ana, we're done. You can't turn back." Chapter 14. Ana felt increasingly insane. That little bit of unresolved feeling you have really has nothing to do with me. She didn't want to give up, despite being rejected numerous times. She believed that if she persisted long enough, Cameron would eventually give in because he was kind and gentle. She used to be unable to love another man because of her guilt about Paul. However, it was time for her to move on because 10 years had gone by. Jake appeared out of the blue the day she burned Paul's picture. The last incident in the live stream was also done in Paul's name, so Ana stared at Jake for a long time, asking, "What is it?" "Chairman Lin, the movie I'm starring in, is set to release next month, but if another film releases at the same time, it'll steal my spotlight. Can you help delay its release? Could you push the release of The General back a few months?" Jake clearly knew that Ana had the power to make this happen. This is the capital's power. However, Ana was unaware that she would later come to regret this choice. She summoned her helper and gave them the order to do this dubious work. "Are you sure you want to do this?" the assistant asked hesitantly. Chairman Lin, the lead actor in The General, is Cameron. Ana was momentarily taken aback. It wasn't canceled. It was just a few months' delay. In the worst-case scenario, she could make up the difference by paying the chains of theaters to show his film more. The director even slapped his thigh and exclaimed, "This is a hit. Everyone's performance is top-notch." Chapter 15. After the film was finished, a rough cut was edited, and everyone was ecstatic. It will undoubtedly blow up when it debuts. The most enthusiastic was Mr. Lee, a 93-year-old veteran performer who portrayed my grandfather. This was his first film after a lifetime of performing in television dramas. It would be his last, too. I smiled and reassured him. It will be released in just 2 more months. If I can see it premiere before I die, I can rest in peace. However, life is not always predictable. The film's release date was indefinitely postponed after it was abruptly ordered to undergo revisions. Dark clouds suddenly overshadowed our joy. Considering Mr. Lee's age, unexpected sickness was not unusual. Tears filled his eyes as he lay in his hospital bed. My reassuring words became stuck in my throat, and I was unable to bring myself to say them. If only I could see the movie premiere before I die. The film had not yet been released on the day of his death. I spent a lot of time sitting on a bench outside the funeral home. As I gazed at the ominous clouds, Martin came to mind. My best friend Martin's hair had completely fallen out by the time he was nearing the end of his illness. I and his family were still working to keep him unaware of how serious his condition was. "You'll get better," he said, lifting his slender, bony arm. "Movie stars are supposed to be handsome. Does that mean I can't be one?" I wanted to smoke but refrained. But Martin insisted on smoking a cigarette. "When I'm gone, please don't go wandering on the rooftop anymore, okay? As long as you're alive, there's always hope. You can't give up on the world just because of your dysfunctional family. Cameron, if you jump, you'll truly have nothing left." "Cameron, I'm dying soon." Martin knew everything and understood everything. "If you enjoy acting, could you help me achieve this goal? Don't go back on it, okay, Martin? That clever little guy was just afraid I would try to commit suicide again because of my upbringing. He must have believed that without his presence no one would remain to rescue me from the rooftop. He wanted me to live, so I lived." From that moment on, his dream became mine. But wasn't his regret the same as Mr. Lee's regret? As a child, I was powerless to do anything about Martin's death. Now, I was powerless again to fulfill Mr. Lee's last wish, and a deep sense of helplessness overwhelmed me. But just then, the director told me the truth. This movie, Anna's people put an end to it. My eyes flared with anger. Had she not gotten involved, it might have fulfilled Mr. Lee's wish. This time, I was sure I could have achieved Martin's dream, and I'm positive I could have won an award. Chapter 16. Since our divorce, I had never looked for Anna before. You could see the astonishment and faint joy in her eyes. I gave her a hard slap across the face as my first action. I laughed bitterly in my anger as Anna covered her cheek and glared at me, saying, "Cameron, are you crazy? You can't just act recklessly because you know I like you." I had pieced together the story between her and Paul from various people before our divorce, and even though I had never met him, I couldn't help but sigh at the loss of a young life due to a relationship. "Anna, is this how you show your love? Anna, you're suppressing the movie I've worked so hard to film for Jake. You're destroying someone else's dream for your selfish desires. Cameron, he's Paul's cousin. I just wanted to ease my guilt. Why drag someone else's life into your guilt?" Anna's fingers trembled slightly, and for the first time her face showed an unprecedented dishevelment. Her voice was hoarse. "Cameron, I just want to start over with you. Maybe you won't believe it, but I've suddenly realized that I love you." I stood at the door, backlit by the light, and sneered. "But, Anna, I've already started to hate you." Chapter 17. From the moment Cameron said he hated her, Anna knew there was no going back. She didn't even dare to appear before Cameron again. All she could do was stealthily gather updates about him online, like a shadowy figure. The doctor attributed her worsening insomnia to a troubled heart. A troubled heart needs a remedy of the heart, but she had none left. 5 months later, the movie in which Cameron played the lead role finally premiered. With its high-quality production and superb acting, The General became both a critical and commercial success. She and Lucy sat in the audience the day Cameron stood on stage to accept the Red Peony Award for Best Actor. "Mom, Dad looks so handsome, like he's surrounded by a glow. Your dad is great. He achieved his dream." Anna nodded. "Your dad is amazing. He has always been a strong individual." She sighed quietly and said, "It's your mom who lost him." Cameron had vanished from the streets of Harbor City that year after answering a phone call. However, Cameron had embraced her with 2 ice creams in one hand when she turned around. She had the butler take Lucy home first after the awards ceremony, and she drove alone along the ring road, trying to shake off the nagging doubt in her heart. "Do you want some? It's sweet. I won't disappear. I'll hold you tight." As she turned around, Cameron stood in the middle of dazzling light, but there was an unbridgeable gap between them. The car radio was playing rumors about Cameron, the newly crowned Best Actor. Cameron, we've heard that you might be starting a new relationship. Is that true? Life has to go on. If you meet the right person, why not give it a try? As the host congratulated him, Anna's speed quickly accelerated. Unknown. Dangers loomed like a beast approaching. A section of the overpass collapsed in the middle. If Anna had driven slower and braked in time, she might have had a slim chance of survival. But she did nothing in that moment. She suddenly gave up on all her actions. Cameron was right. When Paul died, she should have died with him. She had never cherished what she had. She used Cameron to atone for her guilt over Paul's death, but now that she had lost Cameron, what could she use to replace that regret? As the car tumbled down the hill, she wanted to ask him, "Cameron, if I die, will you remember me the way you remember Martin?" But she knew the answer. He wouldn't, since she wasn't deserving of it. Chapter 18. I nearly had a brief ringing sensation in my ears when the host called out Cameron's name. With a smile, the director and my fellow actors encouraged me to take the stage. I didn't really feel like I accomplished it until I held that glistening trophy in my hand. My efforts had finally paid off despite all the ups and downs. "Martin, I've won the Best Actor award. Did you see that I didn't lie to you? I fulfilled our dream." At that moment, I imagined Martin sitting in the audience clapping for me with that big, goofy smile on his face. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. In my youth, I was obsessed with wanting my parents' love to be fair, wanting them to love me as much as they loved my brother, leading to endless depression and frustration. After getting married, I longed for an equal share of love from my wife and child, but it was a love I could never obtain. But now I understand. Self-love allows you to move forward without fear because the deepest source of confidence comes from a fulfilled heart. Chapter 19. After the award ceremony, I received a call from an unknown number. It was my mother. Her voice sounded old and weary. "Cameron, I'm sick. I wanted to avoid bothering you because I've been sick for a while. Would you mind coming to see me?" "No. Let my brother visit you instead. He's been enjoying the benefits of being your most favored child since he was young. Now, it's time for him to take on some responsibilities." With that, I hung up the phone and promptly added the number to my blacklist. Making a clean break from a toxic, loveless family was something I felt was necessary. Chapter 20. I thought I'd be able to sleep peacefully after winning the big award, but early the next morning a phone call woke me up. My assistant informed me, "We have confirmed Anna's death after she drove off a cliff last night. The Lin family is searching for you. I guess they want to invite you to the funeral." The news stunned me for a few seconds. Life teaches us lessons in unexpected ways. If you enjoyed this story and want more heartfelt tales, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to The Man's Diary. Your support keeps these stories alive. See you in the next one.